One of the hardest things to do, regardless of the application you're using, is to create a visual with very large amounts of data. You will always have some sort of spatial constraint, driven by the medium on which you plan to present. For example, you can only fit so many things onto a letter-sized piece of paper before you must make the elements so small that they become unreadable without the help of a magnifying glass. OnePager has a number of features to help users overcome the hurdles presented in this situation, and you'll have to employ one or many to iterate into your first draft, which will drive your decision as to whether or not you can even fit everything you want onto a single page. You just might decide you have too much stuff, and in that case you'll have to reduce your number of shapes or split the visual into more than one page. Let's start by creating a OnePager project view that has about 100 activities and milestones on it. My initial result will likely look like this. And to discuss why, let's first talk about space, since that's going to be our main challenge with any large view. Your OnePager document is digital, but it has specific dimensions, and so do all of the elements displayed in the document. The rows have height. The swim lanes, as shown, have height defined by the number of rows within them, and a width. The shapes themselves have height. There are headers, footers, space for the title, and a time axis. All of these things have measurements, take up space in the document, and to some extent define the dimensions of the document. Almost all of these items can be controlled and will likely be the first settings you modify when you begin to customize and refine your visual. Okay, let's dig in. First, open the Project View properties and navigate to the Rows and Swim Lanes tab. Here you can see that the settings are such that we'll make one row per task, thereby producing 100 rows. This is one aspect, controlling the height of the chart. Now let's move to the Page Layout tab. This upper section is what controls the height and width of the document. All OnePager files have a fixed width when you create them, as you can see here. But the height of the document is usually based on how many rows you have, using the automatic setting. The individual row height is set here. If we have OnePager set to make one row per task, and to use an automatic row height, lots of rows will produce something very tall, whereas only a few rows will produce something short like this. Usually, the first thing I'll do when I have a very tall document is to go to the View tab and fit the document vertically. Then I'll drag the right edge of the chart to resemble more of a landscape shape. This will fit better into a PowerPoint slide or on a big screen in a meeting room. It doesn't have to be perfect proportions. And keep in mind, you're going to have to iterate on the size of the document as you condense your data into the smallest space possible. Now I've got lots more room to see what I have in front of me, and as you can tell from my Page Layout tab settings here, I've changed my width dimension with that drag and drop adjustment to a much larger value. The next thing I might realize is that the left and right boundaries of my chart might be too early and too late, even though my data suggested to OnePager that they should be set as they are now. I can give myself more space by going into the Project View properties and adjusting the dates in the Main tab, here. Now I've maximized my horizontal space with the current width, so let's work on the vertical space. OnePager has the ability to group tasks and milestones into a row based on a common data value. This might be a resource name, or an outline level, or a project value. It could be any column where there are common values to organize your shapes. This works very well for milestone charts or on projects that are sequential, but not where there tends to be a lot of overlap between activities, like in this view. So let's just do it manually. We can accomplish the same thing by dragging and dropping whatever tasks we want into the rows we want, and adjusting the label directions using the label position buttons on the Home tab of the toolbar. Now that we've freed up a bunch of rows, we can auto-hide these rows by clicking the Crop button in the Editing section on the Home tab of the toolbar. OnePager will read the empty rows, and when we click OK, it will automatically hide the rows and reduce the vertical size of the document. With this change, I can do another right edge drag and drop, thereby reducing the overall width and maintaining that landscape shape. With a couple more iterations of this, you can see how I might get to a point where I've done all I can to minimize the number of rows in my visual and maximize on width. Here I might realize I've got too much stuff on a single page and need to continue in some way with additional reduction of data, which we'll cover in the next video. Please visit our other instructional videos at chroniclegraphics.com/support. Or if you have any questions, you can email us at learning@chroniclegraphics.com.